Okay, welcome everybody. Namaste to everybody, and we are back. The team is back, the Nakshatra team, and we're doing this video for KRSchannel for Kapiel Raaj, and we're going to talk about Purva Phalguni Nakshatra today. Purva Phalguni is a very interesting nakshatra. There's a lot of information which is there with Purva Phalguni. Phalguni. The word Phalguni means, Phal means the fruit. Guni means of your karmas. So it's all the fruits of your good karmas that you've done. Also, Phalguni means the fruit of the tree. And if you look at the framework of this nakshatra, I have seen that this nakshatra has been there's been a little bit of controversy with this nakshatra when you go to the Taittiriya Brahmana, and then when you compare it with the later texts like Surya Siddhanta and Nakshatra Kalpa, there has been a reversal of the rulers of the Phalgunis. So if you refer to Taittiriya Brahmana, that is where actually what Taittiriya Brahmana says is this nakshatra is associated with Aryam. Okay, and if you look at the bases above, the bases below of this nakshatra in Taittiriya Brahmana, it states that there is a reference of Aryama to the bull. That's the the male, the masculine energy. And there's a reference in Taittiriya Brahmana, Kanda number 1.5.1, where it says, whenever Aryama approaches, there is a mighty bull, and the bull roars, calling the cows. The cows were referred to as Phalgunis. And they say there were three things related to Aryama, the deity who is associated with, Puru Phalguni Nakshatra. But later on, you see the reversal with Bhaga happening. And what does it signify? It says basis above, a foundation above, was a wife, and she was born from herself. That's the reference in Taittiriya Brahmana. They don't say she's born from somebody. She's born from herself for the sake of offspring. And in the middle, they say it is time. Time itself is the medium through which it's the offspring of the mother. And this is the power of procreation. And below, they say it is the bull's semen, which is the Shukra, which was released. So what Taittiriya Brahmana says is, when all these three things happen simultaneously, that's when a baby is conceived. So you need to have a mother, which is, the foundation above in the heavens, and foundation below is the bull with the semen of the Shukra, and in between is time. And they say the union, the procreation which happens, the union between the polar opposites, that's when the offspring. So that is where you see that Aryama was always associated with contracts and unions. Aryama was also associated with, if you look at the bases above, it says the wife. The bases below is the husband. So, but later on, what has happened during Surya Siddhanta, there has been a reversal, because they have said then Bhaga became the bestower. What is Bhaga? Bhaga is nothing but somebody who's seeking wealth. Bhaga in those times was nothing but, it was Shridhan. Shridhan means today we call it dowry, dowry which was given, but this was given willfully by the family in marriage when the child was given away. So that was what Bhaga meant. It is the wealth that the family gets, when they go into a contract or a union. And Bhaga is also called as Bhaga Devata. Okay. Now, Bhaga was also, there were two names of Bhaga. One, Bhaga Devata, who brings in good luck, fortune. And then he was also called as Vibhaktar. And Aryama was called as a Vidhata. Vidhata also is a reference to Lord Brahma, the supreme creator. And Vibhakta, the Sanskrit word Vibhakta means one who divides a share. Okay, so that is Vibhakta. So you can see this, you know, this this difference between these two, between Bhaga, and usually Bhaga, they say, is all about gathering power, wealth, you know, accumulation of the things, and that usually comes through a contract or a union. So these were certain things, the nuances that I wanted to share with you guys related to, and I'm going to share much more, but I would like the team now to share some of their observations on this beautiful nakshatra, which is Puru Phalguni. And let me tell you, Puru Phalguni is supposed to be, it vests all the six majesties. They say it's pleasure, it's prosperity, it's love, it's enjoyment, it's sexual delights. All of these you can find in this nakshatra. The origin is creation. And usually when you talk about Puru Phalguni, it's all about creation and development. But what people have not seen is the other side. The other side of this nakshatra also brings in an element of dissolution and destruction. And that's where I've seen a lot of people, you know, people who would go into being ascetics are also associated with Puru Phalguni. People who want to renounce vairagya, giving up things. Because once you have understood these pleasures of prosperities, it doesn't mean anything to you. Because then your goal in life is uh, to to have the share amongst the gods. That means you want to be, you know, you become completely desireless, ascetic. That is the other side of this nakshatra, which not many people have talked about. I would like people to discuss about, you know, we always, when you talk about Puru Phalguni, it's all about joy of creation, enjoyment, pleasure, sensuality, prosperity. All of that is a common theme that you see. But people don't talk about the other side, which is being completely desireless, being ascetic. That's another great thing. It's renunciation. It's dissolutions of all your desires. It's merger with the, you know, the higher self of Brahman. That is the ultimate goal of this nakshatra, which means prajanana shakti. It's union with the highest consciousness, spiritual. So, you know, I would like to have the views of my team as well. Let's see, you know, what Santhip, Aditya, and Evji have to share about this beautiful nakshatra. So, Aditya, do you want to go, or Evji, anybody? Evji, please.
Oh, okay. I thought, Aditya ji, are you talking? I don't want to go. Are you
Okay.
ready? Would you like to talk?
He's on mute.
You're mute.
Unmuted.
Yeah, I can.
Go for it.
Okay, I can talk about. So I will just share my screen. Everyone can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So as we say, Purva Phalguni, it was nice introduction given by Dr. Pai. Thank you, Dr. Pai. And Purva Phalguni, just breaking the word, Purva plus Phalguni. Purva is like, you know, the past, Purva. Phalgun. So it's Purva, Phal, and Gun. We can divide this word into three parts. Purva is past, Phal is the fruit, and Guni is the Gun, the good fruit. So here, this nakshatra, the individuals of this nakshatra will be enjoying the good fruits of their past karmas, of maybe their past life or the past karmas. Good fruits of their past karma will be shown. Okay. So this is the first line means that, and this nakshatra is to provide the past meritorious fruit to the native. And remember, this Purva Phalguni is ruled by the planet Venus. And what is Venus? Venus is nothing but enjoyment, right? Enjoying the fruits of your action, basically. So it's very aptly fits with the ruler of this nakshatra, which is Venus. And as I relate all this astrology with astronomy. So where do you see the Purva Phalguni stars of Purva Phalguni? So in the sky, this constellation comes under all the entire four padas of this nakshatra comes under Leo constellation. And this is the well-known, the picture alongside shows the Leo constellation. So this star, this is the Magha part, this head part. So you can imagine that the lion is sitting, bending its knees. Correct? This is the face of the lion. This star is basically the Magha, the Regulus, this one. I think everyone can see my cursor, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Regulus. And these two stars, they are the stars of Purva Phalguni. So these two stars are the stars of Purva Phalguni. And then this is Uttara Phalguni, the next nakshatra. So this is Magha. This is Purva Phalguni, shown by the circles. And then this is Uttara Phalguni. So the two stars are called as Zosma and Shartan. And the Shakti, as Dr. Pai mentioned, is a Prajanana, union of polar opposites. So this is where the Purva Phalguni stars lie in the sky. And what is this? And I was looking, trying to correlate with many of the astronomy aspects of this with this Purva Phalguni, the Leo constellation. So this was one of the article which I read in Physics Today, which came a year back in June 2016, where they say that the spatial distribution of hypervelocity stars, that means there are many high velocity stars, and where they are found in a clump, in a ring, or in a more isotropic distribution. And then here it's an interesting part. A big surprise is that the unbound stars in the hypervelocity star survey are clumped in galactic longitude. Half of the unbound stars are found near the edge of the northern hemisphere around the constellation Leo. So you can see that there are many constellation of galaxies and constellation of stars and all. So what is Purva Phalguni? You know, the mythology story says that Shiva started its Bharat when the sun was transiting Purva Phalguni. And it was in Uttara Phalguni, the marriage was, or the vows were taken. Marriage vows were taken. So it's like the marriage theme. And of course, the energy of this nakshatra is Prajanan, pair of opposites coming. So you can clearly see the marriage and the function. And what happens in a marriage? People come together. People meet together, like a family members, relatives, friends, everyone. So it's like all these unbound stars coming together. It's like bringing together. It's like, remember, these stars are nothing but all entities, basically. They're all individuals in the cosmic world. So exactly that's what is happening. There are many galaxies, there are many stars around this region. So I can relate with this, just this phenomenon of many unbound stars coming and forming a group near the constellation Leo. It's like exactly like the marriage function happening. And then if you talk about this Zosma is also called a Delta Leonis star because it's in the Leo constellation of Delta Leonis. It's a fast spinning star. It's like the equatorial, the speed, the star spins around 180 kilometers per second. And note, this Purva Phalguni nakshatra comes as the Ugra nakshatra. It's a Ugra type nakshatra. So the qualities are very, it's not like mild, it's very, very rough and very, very rough and tough, you can say. It's the Ugra nakshatra. So we can associate that quality with this 180, with the high speed of rotation. And now this is very interesting that, as you can see, as I mentioned here, that the Purva Phalguni is located in this region, and then connect with what are the organs. Like if you consider this as a lion sitting, the lion head is here, the neck region is here, and the Purva Phalguni star is located here. So it's like, the sexual organs of the lion basically. So this nakshatra of Purva Phalguni is also associated with the sexual organs. Okay. And it's also interesting to note that Magha is somewhere near the, like suppose if this lion is standing, this Magha will be very near to its heart. And we know that Leo constellation rules over the heart region of the Kalpurush because it's also the fifth house. which is nothing but heart region. So Magha exactly lies around the heart region. So Magha can be associated with heart, while the Purva Phalguni is like the back region, like this, around this region where you can find the back or the sexual organs. And also, of course, the knees. The line is bending and setting. So this is also the knees, the position of knees. So all the sexual organs, knees, back can be associated with the Purva Phalguni. And there are, of course, there are other parts like lips also is given. It's an organ connected with the Purva Phalguni. So you can clearly see the theme of this nakshatra being the sexual union, how the sexual organs is connected with this Purva Phalguni nakshatra. So in many cases like that, we can see, like you can associate the nakshatra with the animal and the organ of that animal with the organ of the body. So this is one example. If we come probably by other nakshatras, we can also talk like for example, Rohini. Rohini is bull's eye. Rohini is eye. So maybe the eye. So it's also Rohini can be associated with the eye. And remember, Rohini is nothing but where you have the Chandra gets, I think it's exalted. So Kritika is in the Kritika nakshatra, but of course we also have the Taurus is the position where Chandra gets exalted. Chandra is one of the luminary, because people also associated with two luminaries, sun and moon, with eyes. Some people right eye, left eye, some people associate left eye and right eye. So you can see how Rohini is associated with eyes, Purva Phalguni is associated with the sexual organ, Magha is associated with the heart. So it's just by looking at the animal, you can say something about the organs. Anyway. So I also relate all those mythology, Greek and Indian mythology story with the nakshatras. And according to Greek mythology story, it said that this lion was a vicious monster, and he will take the women as an hostages. And this lion was very impervious to any weapon. He cannot be killed by any weapon. Finally, it was the Hercules who has to come and kill the lion. And he killed the lion. So this is a story, basically. Just with these stories, what are the themes that we can understand? Of course, it's like vicious monster, so it has great strength, undefeated because it was impervious to any weapon, and taking women as hostages, so women-related issues. And of course, Hercules killed the lion. That means there can be a downfall of pride or show off. So Purva Phalguni natives can be somehow like now relate this story with the themes of people having with these themes. So of course we know it's it comes on the Leo constellation. They can have show off, pride basically. And that pride can bring them downfall. So Purva Phalguni or Magha natives both should be very careful with the false pride and all. And they should know that it can bring a downfall. And they should take appropriate steps not to fall into that pit. So this is what I do. You always see the story, understand the themes. You can understand then the nakshatra qualities, what that nakshatra is telling you, and what are the appropriate steps to be taken. So then I always also see what are the festivals. Now I like festivals because festivals are always good and you get many things to eat, and I'm a voracious eater. So let's talk about the festivals which happens during when the sun transits Purva Phalguni. So the sun transits Purva Phalguni every year during the time period of 30th August to 12th September. Now what are the festivals that comes under this? It's basically the Vinayak Chaturthi or the Ganesh Chaturthi is a festival celebrated during this period. Of course, it sometimes comes, it can be like in this period, sometimes can be little beyond 12th September. I have seen even Ganesh Chaturthi coming on 16th of September. Sometimes it can happen. Sometimes it can come before 30th of August. But this is the typical range when Ganesh Chaturthi is celebrated. Now remember, what is the Vahan of the Lord Ganesh? It's rat. And what is the animal symbol of this Purva Phalguni? It's again a female rat. Magha is male rat, Purva Phalguni is female rat. And so again, the festival, theme of the festival, you can understand how it is well connected with the deities or the Vahan of Lord Ganesha when Ganesh Chaturthi is celebrated. And of course, now being rat, you can also associate the qualities of rat with this nakshatra. Like rats, they're very socializing animals. So these people are very socializing people. There are of course, there are many actors and all we can find, like, because this is Venus, this is like acting, music, singing, artistic talents can be are shown by Purva Phalguni natives. So they are socializing people, in media, of course. And that, as I said, there's also show off and all, and we know all celebrities, the show off and all. So it's very well aptly fit into all those. So you can also understand the qualities of nakshatra with the themes of the festival celebrated during that time. And then I thought to say you something about the Purva Phalguni tree, which is the Palash tree. Palash is nothing but it's the flame of the forest. Now, Palash, the bark of the Palash is used for fire rituals. Now, Agni, and there is a story between Agni and Palash, which was, I think, Palash was cursed by Parvati. So, of course, when the downfall, the pride, again, we can see that how the pride falls basically. So even with the themes of the nakshatra, you can see how did the Palash was cursed by Parvati, or Agni was cursed by Palash. Because I think there's a story, Dr. Pai, do you remember?
Yes, absolutely. I remember the story. And also, it's a good point that you brought about Palash. Palash is also being given, when a young boy takes a brahmachari, when he goes through the Brahmopadesham, where he's been given the Gayatri mantra.
Yeah, here I have thread ceremony.
Yeah, during that,
Yeah.
he's been given a Palash staff in his hand, which is also signifies that there is I was talking about, union, the spiritual consciousness that people want to merge with, the union, the ascetics, being completely devoid of being desireless. This is again maybe an indication that Palash has a connection with. And there is also a mythological story, with the Palash. If I can recollect very well, I think Brahma at one point in time had actually sat under the tree and meditated for so many years. And I believe Narada also had meditated there. So there is some story that I vaguely remember. It is connected to the Gayatri mantra. So whenever the Gayatri was, chanted, I think there were 3 leaves would sprout. Every Gayatri for this tree, 3 leaves would sprout in this tree. So people said that this Palash tree was very strongly connected to Gayatri mantra, and that's why you see the young boy who wants to take up brahmachari, where his education would begin. That's where he was given the Palash staff of the Palash, because that is actually going to help him become a devoted student of the Shastras and the Vedic. So that was a vague story that I remember. Unless,
because here
unless Deepji or some, Santhip ji have any other stories or any legends or any myths that they would want to add here, feel free.
I have the Devas Gayatri mantra, 3 leaves go at the same time. So that tells us something about the hearing ability.
Yes.
And also, Palash is also used for sexual disorders. So again, you can connect with
I was wondering about the clover leaf symbol, Yuji. In Celtic mythology, you have the clover leaf, which is like also 3 or 4 leaf clover is supposed to be very lucky. Also something along those lines.
Yes, it's the 4-leaf clover. You hear that a lot. It's a very rare thing. Most clovers have 3 leaves, so they always say it's auspicious or lucky if you find the 4-leaf clover. And you know what a clover is, right? They're like a little green. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You see bees around them a lot. Yes. Yeah, and they always have typically the 3 leaves, just like the Palash, but not red. The Palash trees is very red, right? It's the flame of the forest. It's a very beautiful, and that's one thing I would want to add here with the medicinal properties here with the sexual disorders. This could also mean beautiful reproductive organs as well, like healthy, fertility, just like Rohini. Rohini and Purva Phalguni actually have some crossovers. They're both called red or reddish.
Reddish lady.
Yes, and they both deal. One is the blushing bride, the one that's the fertile bride, the romance, and then the other one is the actual bed, the marriage bed. So it's everything to do with that process of procreation that comes in between the dance between those two nakshatras. And I think with sexual disorders, we would also have here people who are very, fertile and capable of passing on their genetics, healthy genetics, and people who have a healthy understanding of reproduction, things like that. And there would be the dark side, the dark side to that too, of course.
But of course, it's good that because we know, as I said, Purva Phalguni is with actors and all. Also, Dalai Lama, he has got, I think he's got moon in Purva Phalguni.
That's why I love that Dr. Arjun Paiji pulled forward the fact that this nakshatra actually has many spiritual attributes. You think of passion and you think of how it pervades nature. Passion takes many forms. It's not only about procreation of the body. It can be the union with many different things, and we're all here for union. So when you get someone, you get like the Dalai Lama who's doing spiritual sadhana, that's how he's making love. That is his partner, that is his union, that is his passion. And so you will get like a Srila Prabhupada as well. He also was a prominent Purva Phalguni. I even believe that Bhakti Vedanta Saraswati is the one before him. Forgive me, I don't off the top of my head remember his name, but he either has prominent Uttara Phalguni or Purva Phalguni. This is very common with bhaktas and also people who do really intense penance, because you have to think about Arjun. Arjuna, he would do intense, focused penance, and Mother Parvati, in order to gain Lord Shiva as a husband. The sacrifice, the fire, the friction of the tapas. You think about sexual union even, everything that comes together creates in some way some kind of friction that leads to a higher creation of some sort. And that's not only physical. We're so based in this culture that we want to trap beauty in that, and we want to label all these things. But really, this sign is such a beautiful, fertile ground of the nature of longing itself, and how far a person will go to attain that union, whatever it looks like to that person. So Dr. Arjun Paiji, I love that you brought that forward. And yes, so.
Thank you very much, Nancy, for sharing
also, if you take, this is the 11th nakshatra. So if you take Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, and again you continue with that Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, then this will be like after 8, again Dharma, Artha, Kama, probably. So it's like the Kama nakshatra. So it's exactly the Kama. Now Kama nakshatra is not just what we think of sex and all, but it's also the desire, the intense desire to achieve your goal. So I've seen these people with Purva Phalguni, prominent planets in Purva Phalguni, tirelessly working to achieve their goal. So
yeah, it's fierce, right? It's fierce. So
correct.
You think
like
of
Arjuna,
penance. It's fierce.
Perfect example is Arjuna, working hard to achieve his goal. Like he was the best archer of his times. So these are some of the Mahabharata characters which I like to put, because Bhishma is Dhanishta. Dhanishta is ruled by Ashtavasus, and Bhishma was one of the Ashtavasus. So I associate Bhishma with Dhanishta nakshatra. Arjuna is like with Phalgunis because he was born in Phalgun, so Uttara Phalguni and Purva Phalguni. Karna is like Vishaka. Now why I feel is Vishaka, because Vishaka is like 2 branches. Sometimes later I will talk about this 2 branches. Karna was like, even though born with Kunti's son, he was still, he has to support Duryodhana, Kaurava's side. So it's like Vishaka, between 2 opposite natures he has built traps. So I would like to see what are the Mahabharata characters and what are their nakshatras, because we know the characters well, their qualities, and then we can learn more about the nakshatras in that way.
Aditya ji, I'd love to comment. That's a really interesting little contrast you've got there, because if you read a lot of the names of Karthikeya, you'll see Shaka and Vishaka are names of, and the thing is, the reason they split from his body, they come out of his body, these 2 powerful warriors, and one of the stories is related to Vishaka humiliating Indra. And who was Arjun but Indra's son? So So it's very fascinating that you made that.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
He just had that intense desire to humiliate and defeat Arjun.
Correct, exactly. Yes, yes, yes.
That's really fascinating.
That's is that the story which is connected to the Khandwa forest and the burning of the Khandwa forest, where Indra is protecting the Nagas and the serpents in the forest, and Agni had to really quench his, I think, indigestion, so he had to burn the forest, and then Krishna and Arjuna give the canopy of arrows, and they ensure that there's no raindrop which goes. So it's very interesting that you mentioned about this.
Well, this story I'm talking about is actually related to right after Kartikeya's birth, when he is known as Guha or Guya, the one who dwells in caves or secret places, the protector of forest ashrams. And he's a boy, and Indra sees him, and Indra is so threatened by anyone who has spiritual power. He always thinks that they're going to take his throne. So he comes down immediately to kind of, show this boy who's boss. And it doesn't go well, because Kartikeya just naturally, these two branches, Shaka and Vishaka, come out to defend, and they defeat Indra, and Indra realizes who he is. And then there's another story with Kartikeya where he's called Vishaka in order to appease the paternity battle that is going on about his birth. So he splits himself into four portions. Two portions go over to the male half, which is Lord Shiva and Agni. And then two portions go over to Shakti, or Bhumi Devi, or Bhumi, and Mother Parvati. And what the part that goes to Shakti, the left side, that's Vishaka. Vishaka and Kumara and Shaka go to the right. And then Mahasena and the great general Mahasena and Vishaka go to Shakti, actually.
Wow.
So this is so Aditya ji, this is very interesting. You related this to Karna. And the birth of the sun is said to be in Vishaka Nakshatra.
That's true. Okay. That's correct.
And the birth of Brihaspati is said to be in the Phalguni.
In the Phalgunis.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So isn't that fascinating?
And it makes sense because Karna was the son of Surya Bhagwan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and the constant torment of being.
Correct.
Yes.
So I think finally I will end my slide with this, and just putting result of Shakti basis and desire creation of 4 fetus. Foundation above is wife or female sexual partner, below is husband or male sexual partner. And desire is to have the best share among the gods. Shakti is Prajanana Shakti, the power of procreator. Again, you can see the sexual union thing here. So these are some, I think I'm almost out of my time. So I'll just end. Thank you. Thanks everyone for commenting, and thanks a lot.
Thanks, Aditya. Beautiful.
Thank you, Aditya ji. Beautiful presentation. I really liked it. There's so many points that you have mentioned, which actually I was thinking about, and some of the good points which came out, which I was also contemplating on, was this nakshatra, as you said, is the primary motivation is karma. And when you talk about karma, it is also about the latent desire, which is inherent. So when you say karma, it is not only about what you see is lust or sex or whatever. It's also something which your soul has to satisfy in this lifetime. So when you have prominent planets coming into Purva Phalguni, that means it's bringing in some of your past life karmas, and you need to really enjoy those past life karmas in this lifetime. You have to spend those karmas in Purva Phalguni. And that's why most of the Westerners have called this as a party nakshatra, because it's all about bed pleasures. It's not about and people have said, okay, it's Bhaga is the god of delight. He bestows affection and sexual passion and all of that. But there are certain fun facts that I've come across with this nakshatra, which I would like to share with the viewers. One is, according to Varahamira, he says Purva Phalguni loves fried oily, salted food items. I don't know how many of them would agree with this, but prominent Purva Phalguni, at some point in their life, they would have loved fried food, oily food, or salted food. Secondly, what he also says is these people love wearing clothes which are made of cotton, right? And they like very colorful clothes. That's what Varamira writes in his book. And they're supposed to be born very lucky. And one more thing, which was a good point, which Aditya ji brought, where I've seen with a couple of them, and I know of a couple of people who had some issues with their back as in spinal issues, back pain, slouch, or some element, if related to the back. Because if you see, these Phalgunis actually fall at the back and the sexual organ of the lion, right? Then I've found out that because of this desire and also because of the procreation thing, many Phalguni people, prominent people, they are very sweet talkers, very sweet talking, and they love children and kids. This is a very general thing I've seen with these, and all those things that you've said. I think it works perfectly. Actors, models, wedding planners, marriage counselors, matchmakers, artists, musicians. All of them have could have.
I've seen them talking very sweetly to extract work.
Yes.
that I have seen.
Okay, that I think, yeah.
One thing I want to say about that too, the sweet talking and the ugra, the fierce nature. I've noticed something, and this is where we get into Bhaga's children. Okay, and I want to refer everyone to Vedic Astrology's video on Purva Phalguni for that, because he goes into that graphically and he goes into it in a very pointed, focused way. And I think if you really want to understand more about this sign as far as the passionate reproductive portion of creation, just look, everything's going into union to produce children or this. So he goes into a lot of detail with the children of Bhaga. But one thing I've noticed is the women are quite different than the men. The women are quite different. The men have more of an ugra, or fierce or harsher nature. And the children of Bhaga represent them. The men are the masculine principle, and the females are the feminine principle. They're very opposite. His children are described extremely opposite. And so I've seen this with Purva Phalguni, is that the women are actually quite very, the nature is much more of that quality, and the male nature. A lot of fierce male Purva Phalgunis I've met over the years just giving readings to people, it tends to have an ugra. With the males, there's more of the hardness, the force, that all of those qualities. So this would be a good thing to look into for anyone who's really seeking to understand Purva Phalguni from just a natural sense. And you can apply it to all areas of life, because, like we said, a yogi, what use does a renunciate have to reproduce children? So if they have a lot of Purva Phalguni, it's not going to translate as physical union for them, but it will still translate as a desire for you. And someone's got to be the receiver, and someone's got to be the giver. It's got to be generative, receptive. And so this nakshatra is all about those opposites of generative and receptive principles. And talking about like the Brihat Jataka and Bahar Mahira, and I loved what you brought forward, Dr. Arjun Bhaiji. I hope I didn't cut you off. I think I might have cut someone off.
Oh, no, don't
I
worry.
want to veer to another direction. I want to make sure this was
I think you're perfect. You've taken over at the perfect time. This is the best thing. I was just going to finish, and then I was just trying to say that this beautiful point you brought about, and that was the video of Vedic Astrology that you mentioned. Very beautiful video. And one of the beautiful things that he also mentions in his book as well is he talks about the wife of Bhaga and her name is Siddhi.
Yes.
Siddhi means
Right.
achieving perfection. Perfection,
Yes.
Siddhi. This is for a spiritualist, this is the other side that you see is your union with trying to be perfect in things, trying to achieve the higher qualities of life, of Siddhi, the wife of Bala. So, Evji, I think you're on the right track. Please go ahead. It's lovely.
That it's it was really beautiful. I had listened to it and I was going, wow, he really hit that perfectly. And so what I had done is I went into a lot of my old notes, like Bahar Mahira. How one thing that really stood out to me that I just want to bring up before I go into my notes is that if you notice in the Brihat Jataka and Brihat Samhita, you realize that Bahar Mahira talks very differently about the constellation Leo than he does about the nakshatras falling in, aligned with the sidereal Leo. And at some portions, he does say that the nakshatras are aligned with the constellation. And at other points, he refers that they are completely separate entities. So I really want to open that door to people doing research, because this whole thing with tropical sidereal Rashis, and that's all on people's minds. I think it's a valid thing to investigate for everyone, because there's a lot of like almost like entwining there. But he tends to talk poorly. If I have to say it bluntly, he tends to say very negative things about Leo Rashi. Very harsh things. They wander in the forest, they're harsh, they're separative by nature, they're argumentative, he says all these things, they're overheated, and it's almost this completely different picture than the nakshatras that would be associated with the actual stars of the constellation Leo. So Purva Phalguni, he talks about having sweet speech, being in the service of the royal court, being performers at the royal court, being dressed finely, having luck with the government. If this nakshatra is spoiled, it gives fear of the government. So it's very interesting. In Magga, he talks well about, he does talk about Magga in relation to death. As a matter of fact, he says if a new article of clothing is worn on Magga, then it's an omen of death, possible death, on a Magga Nakshatra moon. And then Purva Phalguni, it's trouble from the government. So there's this little interesting thing that goes on that I would encourage people to read these classical sources and then be discerning.
Evji,
yes.
It is very interesting Varamira mentions about these traits, and it gets me to think. And what comes to my mind, and there could be other thing, but what comes to my mind is, if you make Purva Phalguni the Lagna, then it's Venus. For Vimshotri Dasha system, Venus is the ruler of Purva Phalguni. She rules the third house where Sun is debilitated in Libra, and then he also rules the 10th house where the Moon is exalted. So that
I have something interesting about that, actually. Now that you say that, that's very fascinating.
So
and I know Santhip G is going to open up a whole can of worms on all of these rulerships. So I'm going to save that for him. but that, the fact you brought up the moon, Dr. Arjun, I was just going to say the last thing I wanted to do is go over to encourage students of astrology to go ahead and start trying to use the dashas properly. Okay, because there are the Vimshotri dasha, it is for everyone. So that's why that so-called rulership works. I think it's just we don't have a language for it. It's not really that the grahas rule the nakshatra. They tend to just like wake them up, or give you the fruits of them according to their nature. So I've noticed with many of the dashas, Purva Phalguni is activated by moon. Okay, so we've got Venus, and then when you said moon becomes exalted, think about reproduction as well. Moon deals with sexual organs, Moon determines the sex. Moon is the land of the ancestors. When you look, even in the Upanishads you read, I was just reading Prashna Upanishad the other day, and I found this beautiful section on the sun being the world of the liberated souls, and the moon being the world of the ancestors and of pleasures. You use that word, pleasures. The world of pleasures and the world of the ancestors. And the Rig Veda, they're each connected to a Veda, interestingly enough. So you have the Sama Veda connected to the sun, you have the Yajur Veda connected to the moon, and then you have the Rig Veda connected to the path of the earth, which is Bhumi and Mangal. So in Vayu Puran, you'll read, when sun, moon, and Mars come together, you do Shrad for the ancestors. In specific nakshatras, the other Purans, you'll read that it's sun, moon, and Jupiter. Specifically Mrigashira Nakshatra, because it's Soma. So this is clear indication that that's the world of the ancestors. So moon, with Purva Phalguni and reproduction, who do you think of immediately in the Kshatriya dasha that's activated by moon? Rohini. So we have this birth element and this procreative element. Yeah, so, and I wanted to encourage students to go ahead and get used to looking at this, because what it will do is you'll start realizing the combinations of grahas or combinations of situation at birth that that may activate a certain nakshatra quite strong, and you might not understand it from any other means. Like, you know, I had like, for instance, the Shasti Hayani Dasha, which that is if the sun is in Lagna. And no one, you know, how many people have sun in Lagna? We're supposed to be consulting that Dasha, because that one starts from Ashwini. That is the Dasha that starts from Ashwini. The Mshotri Dasha actually starts from Kritika, according to classical. So you know, everything should be checked through active experience, through union, right? So I'm not just quoting books out of just to quote books. I'm asking people to try it, to try to apply it, because you'll learn something from it and you'll get a whole other dimension that you're not getting, specifically with Purva Phalguni, because from that dasha, so if sun is in first house, then the nakshatras start from Ashwini, and the moon becomes the activator of Purva Phalguni. Okay, and same thing is if you were born on the hour of the sun during the day or the hour of the moon during the night. Moon becomes activator for the Phalguni. So there's these little things that, but you have to consult the right dasha. So I just wanted to pull that in because we're talking about fruits. With Purva Phalguni, we're talking about past life fruits. We're talking about what we're enjoying in the moment, meaning our portion. And
sorry, I just wanted to add something because something came to my mind. It is beautiful that you mentioned about Kritika Nakshatra to be the first, you know, that's Atharva Veda, which talks about Kritika being the first nakshatra. And it's very interesting.
Riyad or Shastra.
Yeah, okay.
Vimshotri Dasha is counted from Kritika.
Kritika. Now, if you take Kritika as the first nakshatra, it's very interesting to note that Purva Phalguni becomes the 9th nakshatra of Bhaga, Bhagyodaya, or the Bhaga Sthan, or the Bhaga nakshatra. And that's why it is given to Bhaga. And that's why I feel the reversal happened between Aryaman. Who's Aryaman? Aryaman was nobody but he's called as, both Bhaga and Aryama, or Aryaman, both of them are solar Vedic deities. But Aryama was also called as the king of the ancestors. It's called the king of the ancestors. And Bhaga is Bhaga Devata. So the 9th lord and the 10th lord. So the 9th house is fortunes. So you can see the 9th nakshatra from Kritika is Purva Phalguni, which is beautiful. And that's why it's given to Bhaga.
That is amazing. Yes, that's why you start seeing the way that the ancient people thought. If you really want to go into the mindset and understand, and I mean, Vihara Mihira was all about omens as well. As astrologers, we should be reading these omens. We should be looking, you know, speaking of Rohini, think about how many times you read about predicting the fate of the earth from watching the moon, when the moon goes into Rohini between June and July.
Wow.
There's so many sections that you'll hear. If you just read, you'll see that the astrologer was supposed to go out on the 8th lunar day before, meditate on the sacred fire for 3 days, on Agni for 3 days, and then wait for the moon to go into Rohini and read the omens. And there's a whole process to predict the fate of the earth for a year from that point, because Rohini is the wellness of the earth. Rohini is the fertility of the earth. So all of these nakshatras, whenever the moon transits Purva Phalguni, we should try to understand what that means. When a graha is aligned with the Yogatara of Purva Phalguni. So because he was looking around him. He was not calculating based on programs and all of this stuff. You can tell by the way he talks, he was going out and watching the sky. And he was watching the omens, the cloud castles, as they call them, everything. He was watching everything at the moment the moon would enter a new nakshatra. And he was a lot of times talking about fixed stars. And that's what it sounds like. People will say different, but it sounds like he was talking about fixed stars. Not so much for the constellations, but for the nakshatras, it sounds like it was fixed stars. So the Purva Phalguni was this sign of, pleasures, because it is karma motivated. And, you think about someone involved in bhakti, that's their pleasure. So pleasures become this vilified word for spiritualists.
It's interesting, Evji, I was also thinking, in the olden times, people never looked at the 7th house for marriage. They look at the 9th house. The procreation. 9th house, if 9th house is not powerful for legal marriages, where people, get married and solemnized with the consent of both the families, that's 9th house. Today we think we put too much of emphasis on the 7th house and the 7th lord and say, okay, no, I think you have to look even also 9th house, because that's where this nakshatra is trying to hint us. That's the union for procreation, for having children. So 9th house is very important, and 9th nakshatra also I feel is, this being the 9th nakshatra.
Yes, absolutely. It's 5th from the 5th. Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. Is Aditya ji here, or?
Aditya ji, I think
I think he disappeared.
He usually he needs to feed himself constantly. I think he must be hiding behind the camera and having some chocolates.
He brought up the mouse or the rat, and I think about, they're always nibbling on something, but they also are constantly reproducing. I'm sure that this is why, and they're very clean. You and I talked about this.
Yes, and was it you, Evji, in one of our discussions we had, was you or Santhip ji or one of us, I don't know, they said, this Purva Phalguni, the animal symbol, which is a rat, right? And they say the rat constantly needs to keep nibbling on something. If it doesn't, it seems the teeth actually go into their brain. Have you heard of this? Somebody told me this. That's why.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, because they constantly need to keep nibbling on something. Because if they stop nibbling, it seems the teeth will start growing backwards.
Oh
and
my
it goes
God.
into the brain. I don't know how far it is true. I heard this in one of the discussions we were having. I don't know whether it was our discussion or somebody else. But this is, I would like people to go and validate, because this is not what I've read, but I've heard, and I could be wrong. But they say that's why you can see a lot of Purva Phalguni, and they always keep nibbling or chewing on something. If they do that, they keep their teeth.
Because that's what happened to Aditya ji.
So, Evji, please
Yeah,
carry on.
It's also interesting that Aditya is now, so Bhaga is also connected with blindness, so literally you can see him. So, you have the Bhaga being blind, fogged in the eye by Shivji. So like Mahesh, so It's a really interesting
See,
moment.
this is a very good point, Santhip ji, you brought it up, because what I've seen with Purva Phalguni also is this, you can see that they're kind of blind to many of the things that, sometimes they're blind. When you say blind, not literally blind, figuratively. Things will be happening around them, but they just give a blind eye, or rather they will, it's completely because they have so much of faith, on the system or in the beliefs that they have. They are completely blinded by their belief systems or their faith and their, whatever.
Or love.
Love, yeah. So that's why they say
Yeah.
love is blind, isn't it? Love doesn't have eyes, because if you start looking at everything what happens in your life with a pair of eyes, then I think you'll always try to weigh them. So love is unconditional. It should be blind. Love is blind.
And speaking of, Shukracharya losing the eye in the story of, Mahabali's yajna, it's interesting because speaking of omens, the omen I received today before doing the videos, I actually got in the Vamana Puran.
So we got the,
So,
we have got
Vamana
the,
Puran. Yeah.
Aditya ji back.
Okay, and Aditya ji is back.
Please go ahead, MG. Sorry to interrupt. When I saw Aditya ji, two omens.
You're muted.
No, I had an important call, so I was attending that. So
We thought you might be nibbling.
no, I already did that before the start of the session, so no issue.
So carry on, EG. You're talking about.
I was just saying that today before the video, I got in my first order of the Vamana Puran. As I had a condensed version of it, but I wanted to see the actual Sanskrit. So I got in volume 1 and 3 today. So I just think it's interesting because he has a whole story of, we've often associated with Purva Phalguni with the Bhaga gets his eyes injured in Taksha's yajna, then Shukracharya loses an eye in Mahabali's yajna. So there's this whole theme with the blindness element of oftentimes the Venus activated nakshatras. So, but specifically Purva Phalguni, and you get, you do see this quality there. So that's all I was saying, and then Aditya ji showed up. Another good omen.
Another good omen. Exactly. So, anything else, EG, that you wanted to share?
I just wanted to bring the attention of the dashas to people because of the fact that, and also another interesting fact about Purva Phalguni with dashas. Rahu and Ketu never activate Purva or Uttara Phalguni. So that they're usually activated by the luminaries, Sun, Moon, or Venus. That's the most common, is probably Sun and Moon, actually. Moon activates Purva Phalguni 3 times. So, like you'll see a nakshatra like Ashwini, it's constantly activated by Rahu and Ketu. Okay, so so these things, you'll start realizing there's patterns, and you'll see the attributes in these nakshatras. So I just wanted to pull any student who's interested, or anyone who has, like Purva Phalguni nakshatra in their horoscope, and if they have these conditions at the time of birth that apply to these dashas. One of them is Ashtotri dasha, which is based on Rahu's position. It has a lot to do with Rahu's position, whether that dasha applies to you. So that dasha starts from Rudra, right? So you count from Rudra, and Moon rules Purva Phalguni, or activates Purva Phalguni nakshatra. So it's just fascinating for people to start looking at this, because they'll realize, maybe if they can't find out what's going on through Shotri dasha, check these things, because it's potent, and there's a reason why these things are there as tools, little tools to determine, get your finger on the pulse, So yeah, so that's all I really wanted to share, and also just about referring people to Vedic Astrology's video on Phalguni for the children of Bhaga. I haven't heard anyone cover it so extensively, and he does such a good job. He goes through the names and he talks about everything. so he spared us from doing it.
That's very true. I think he's beautifully explained all the sons and the daughters of Bhaga in the video that he's done. So I think people should go and watch that video. It's beautiful. So,
yeah.
But these were very good points, Yuji, that you brought up. And then I just wanted to reconfirm. You said that you would see Moon and Venus being the Lord in many of the dashas for this nakshatra, Purva Phalguni.
So it's Moon, Sun, Venus.
Moon, Sun, Venus.
Sun, Venus.
Yes.
Now, yeah, the luminaries are most common, even more so than Venus. The Sun and Moon, but Moon by far activates Purva Phalguni more times. But we do really need to give a lot of weight to the Nakshatra dasha because it does apply to all of us. So it's a very important dasha because it does apply on a broad scale. And that's like humanity at large is influenced by that force. So you can understand how Venus's energy is going to be so powerful from the element. And from the Nakshatra dasha, if we count from Kritika with Purva Phalguni, then we get a different result than if we count from Ashwini or if we count from Arudra, right? So you can start looking at these things in a different way and how that nakshatra might be for you. So if you were born, for instance, with Sun on Lagna, you want to check out the different dasha and start counting from Ashwini. So, and that's a common thing. A lot of us, we think about how many people will have Sun on Lagna. So that's all I have, Dr. Arjun Paiji.
Thank you very much, Yuji. This was brilliant. And what I was thinking when you were speaking is, I've seen a couple of charts where I've also seen Purva Phalguni being associated with policy makers, lawmakers, right? And I wonder.
I would be curious about if they had a Vargotama Lagna with their Lagna and Navamsa, because Jupiter becomes the activator of Purva Phalguni in that case.
Wow. I never thought about that way. I mean, that's beautiful.
So for all of you who have Vargotama Lagna, that means same Lagna in the Rashi chart as in the Vamsha.
So that would be first pada, isn't it? First pada of Purva Phalguni is Vargotama.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be Purva Phalguni Lagna.
Oh, okay.
Any Vargotama Lagna.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then you want to apply the Shatabdika. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm probably saying it wrong. I don't have the Sanskrit in front of me. I could probably do it better if I did. But you want to look at that dasha. And see, the thing is with these programs, a lot of them don't calculate every dasha, and then when they do, they'll just apply it to everyone. And so one thing that I have to give props to Ernst Wilhelm, he has actually defined it for you. So if you get the Kala software, it will literally show you what dasha is applicable to what chart. But don't rely on a program to do that, because programs are liable to flip up, even the best of them. And I always double check all the requirements before I look at these things, because sometimes and Yogini dasha is going to show up for everyone, because that one's also applicable. So
and what about Kala Chakra dasha?
Now Kala Chakra dasha has like Savya and Upsavya nakshatras, and it's different. That's a completely, you could teach that by itself, because there's so many attributes of Kala Chakra dasha, but you need the exact birth time. It's kind of like using the Shasti Yamsha chart. So if you don't have the exact birth time, then you're going to be in trouble. So that dasha I don't bring up unless I was going to do a full blown, and I'm not claiming to be a master of it at all. Not enough people have an exact birth time. So you're gonna have a lot of problems perfecting that dasha. I mean, I can't speak for every astrologer. I personally have had a lot of problems. I know the technique. I've memorized it. My little Mercury has memorized techniques, but that doesn't mean that Jupiter has taken it deeper. So I understand all the technical, mechanical side of it, but applying it, be very careful. And it's even hard to read them Chodri Dasha. Just to do that right. I fail all the time. I'm the first to say that. I fail all the time. I have to go back and unless I'm connected through spirit to the horoscope of another person, I find that, speaking interestingly enough about Purva Phalguni, we're talking about the fruits, right? The crop that's going to grow the good karma. Unless you're somehow linked in with the punya of the person that's receiving the reading, unless they have the merit to put, you can get the worst reader. And if that person has merit, they will pull out everything brilliant about that reader. So us readers, we can't take any credit. I really am humbled by it. The more I learn, the more I'm just head on the ground.
Beautiful. What you've said is, more. I totally agree with you. I think the native or the clients usually get the best out of the astrologer. It's not the astrologer, how brilliant the astrologer is. If your karmas are good and if your timing is good, you're just trying to get a good reading, then we as just interpreters, I think we just rattle out whatever universe wants us to share with that native. So it's his good fortune that he gets to come and listen from an astrologer. So I don't think there are some, there's nothing about the skill. I think it's more to do with intuition and what people want. I mean, what the grahas want you to communicate with the native. So
yeah, I mean, a drunk on the street could just look at you and tell you your fortune.
Yes, absolutely.
If the beloved of the universe wants that, then the drunk on the street can speak it to you. I know I'm going to get in trouble with so many astrologers here, but I have to say we should be humble. Because really, the one thing is, as astrologers, we should be responsible. We should learn these things. We should live a dedicated life. We should correct our alignment, because what happens is we do have the responsibility of seeing the blueprint of and you don't want to infect that with your mind. You want to be very clean. In a way, when you're looking at a horoscope, you don't want to just bring in anything into that place. It's like the moon. You need to become the moon. In many ways, you need to become the reflective surface, and that is our responsibility. But being able to give a brilliant prediction, how many brilliant astrologers have you seen give 7 brilliant predictions, and then all of a sudden they give 3 that are just completely off? And does that make them less brilliant? They are not more powerful than the beloved, than the inner beloved. They are not. We don't have that authority. We don't have that authority. That is, that's why I try so hard with Jyotish and with our brothers and sisters in the Jyotish world. We need to go lightly on each other. We're brother and sisters. We need to go lightly on each other. You're speaking of merit. We're draining our merit to backbite, to judge, to act as if we alone know the rules. We're just draining it. What does it say? I think also in the Upanishad, I think Bhargava asks a question about the expenditure of prana, because throughout that Upanishad they say the sun is prana itself, Praneshwar. the sun is, how do you spend it? Like, how are we consuming it in a negative way? And one of those ways is by fixating and giving other people trouble, you know, or and think about this: we're responsible for holding the lamp of Jyotish, the eye of the Vedas, and we're responsible for keeping it clean and keeping it free of whatever debris. And how are we going to do that if we don't become more, admit we don't know? Admit that.
It's beautiful, AG, what you said. It makes absolute lot of sense, and that gets me to think, you know, which is the house typically taken for an astrologer? What is the house that you take for an astrologer?
Well, quite a few, but fifth house.
Yeah, fifth house.
Ninth house.
Yeah, ninth house, fifth house, because ninth house is the house of higher wisdom, and fifth house is the house of you know pravachan, Vachaspati, preaching.
Yeah.
So both have to be strong in these people's chart, ninth and fifth, right? But what is happening today is, which is the house for occult?
For what?
For
You broke
occult,
out.
for occult sciences, eighth house.
Oh,
Science.
eighth house. Hands down. That's
So,
where all the energy accumulates.
yes. Okay. So that means, you see, if ninth and fifth were important, but where is the focus or energy of these astrologers going? 12th from ninth and third from fifth. Third from fifth is the karma, because if you take fifth house as dharma, artha,
You mean
kama.
fourth from fifth from the five?
Sorry,
you mean fourth from fifth?
Fourth from fifth. Sorry, no, I'm talking about the eighth house. I'm talking about eighth, 5, 6. Yeah, it's a fourth. So it's a moksha. Yeah. You see, it's both the moksha, isn't it? 12th from 9th.
Peace of mind. Fourth house.
Fourth house.
Inner, also privacy.
So when you're talking about occult, we should always give peace of mind to the native and give them confidence, because it's the moksha house from the fifth house of pravachan. That's where the occult house is, and it's 12th from 9th, again a moksha.
Yes, and you're liberating your fathers. You're liberating your
children. Your children.
So your children and your fathers,
your father,
or your
ancestor.
Absolutely, it's an epidemic. I think that we, in the ancient days, the astrologer, of course, was regarded as a guru, you know, because most of them were rishis. Nowadays, it's very strange for one of us to claim that status. I'm not saying they're not there. I'm sure they're there. I'm not. I say that with confidence. I'm not. I am a weak human being, and so I know my place is to simply translate, and I do not overstep that boundary. And I really think with a nakshatra like Purva Phalguni, we are looking at the punya, the merit. And when you're overstepping boundaries as an astrologer, when you're doing these things, you are just putting like a tube in your, you know, like your vital fluids are just coming out of this place that you haven't protected. That you have protected yourself in the shield of truth. Truth will keep you humble really quick. Be honest with yourself, you know, and then you know, if you are a rishi, you'll know. But yeah, so I feel humbled to be able to even study this science. So I don't want to take too much time with this. I just I feel it's such an important thing with a nakshatra like Purva Phalguni that represents all these fruits and what grows, you know, the children, the offspring that we're having in every level. You think about Brahma. Brahma has manasutras as well, right? He has the children from the mind. We do too, in some way or another. We're all little Brahmas, you know, we're all the little versions of the creator in one shape or another. And we have all these offspring. Wherever mind goes, energy flows. They're constantly giving birth to something, constantly uniting with something. And what does that look like? You know, look at the world around you. What does it look like? So Purva Phalguni asks us to be more careful with our energies of union, whether that's sexual union, whether it's mental union, emotional union, spiritual union, whatever force is driving you of desire, where are you placing that? So, okay, I'll be quiet now.
Beautiful, Evji. Thank you. So let's go to Santhip ji. He's been waiting for. We've been our discussions. Usually we say, you know, we needed to finish this video in an hour or 15 minutes. I have no clue. I've lost sense of time. I have no clue where we are. You know, we wanted to do a very short video. I have no. You know, whenever this is something that I have to tell with all the viewers of, you know.
We're the four you guys.
We are the four people. Whenever we get
you guys,
we can just go on for hours.
Actually, I was purposely keeping quiet. I said I should not talk, so that will again add more.
and I was telling everybody, you know, we have to wrap this up in an hour or 15, you know, an hour or 15 minutes. But I think we are. There is so Santhip, please.
Forgive me.
But Evji, that was very beautiful points. You know, I mean, so many beautiful points were raised. So many beautiful points. You know, and these are actually facts. And I think, you know, really, with respect to Purva Phalguni, whatever themes we have so far, those are like subtle aspects that are touching on. So, for instance, Evji, you talked about classics. You talked about literally classics. You are mentioning techniques within classics. You know, again, Purva Phalguni, you know, natural fifth house of the zodiac. That's where Purva Phalguni is falling. And then again, you know, Aditya went missing. So, you know, there's the theme of blindness. We talked about that, metaphorical blindness, stuff like that. And then we also talked about, you know, for instance, Aditya, I think you'll be a prayer for this literally sun. You know, your name is the sun. So you're the sun in was playing. So I mean, if you actually look at what we have discussed so far, even like Evji going about peace of mind, you know, what do you want to create, and like that is another aspect, because it's a very hugely creative nakshatra, Purva Phalguni. These natives love to create, and sometimes to the point where they just want to create. They don't want to stabilize that into structure. And that is another theme. And the thing is that, and yeah, Evji mentioned, Evji was asking, okay, what do you want to create? What do you want to create at a physical level? What do you want to create at a mental level? What kind of emotions do you want to create in your life? Even things like that. And what is it, what kind of energy, how do you want to divert your energies? Or, you know, how do you want to point your energies so that you can get the optimum solution of them all? So, as I was saying, like, how many beautiful points were raised so far, to the point where I'm like, you know, there are only, I can raise some more. I'm also getting more ideas. But let me just say a couple of things which I felt we missed out. First thing is that Purva Phalguni is the bed. And I've seen that many times with these natives, they do a lot of work in the bed. They do a lot of work in the couch. They are sitting on the sofa all the time. And another thing I've seen that sometimes events with the bed can show like their fortunes as well, literally. Like say, okay, say you're having sex, literally a broken bed is not good for you. That's another way. But I actually that one native actually said that when they have bed, when the native was sleeping on a broken bed, his fortune went away. So that's again like showing something like he experienced sudden loss with a broken bed. So again, broken furniture, broken bed, all those are, you know, again, broken couches, all those are even supposed to be places where Rahu resides or where chaos can reside. So it's very important that the best remedy for these Purva Phalguni natives is that, okay, you know, if you're having furniture, make sure that it's good furniture, you know, like don't put broken furniture into your home, in the space where you live. That's another thing I've seen. And then, yeah, because the bed symbol is it's a symbolic interpretation that has to go. So these natives can be extremely lazy. extremely lazy because they are just sleeping all the time. And sometimes actually taking a nap is good for them. These natives can be lazy, but actually, Dr. Pai, you mentioned this, like, taking a nap and coming out of the nap, that is a great remedy almost for these Purva Phalguni natives. Sometimes if they have malefics there, they might not they not take naps at all. I've seen that also. Like this theme of like, okay, I can't sleep during daytime, something like that. That kind of thing will happen. And then with this blindness also is another theme. So again, this blindness is another. Yeah, also seen doctors with the bed team. So bed team, because doctors spend time with people who are lying in bed literally. So like they can be powerful healers as well, because they can help you connect with something deeper, like vitality. Like if you're saying how sun is actually connected with prana, so you have that vitality connection. And then also in Venus video, like Evji, I think Evji mentioned how that Barney is the womb and the creation is happening in Purva Phalguni. So again, if you think like, women get pregnant in hospital. I mean, they deliver babies in hospital. So again, you can see that.
Hopefully don't get pregnant in the hospital.
Yeah, my bad. but
that would be interesting. And we have three doctors here.
Right. See, doctors actually.
Not medical doctors.
All three of you.
Not medical doctors.
But not medical doctors.
Yeah.
Right. See, that's actually interesting, because with the Purva Phalguni natives, I've seen that many times they are very right about what their health is. Like, okay, the doctors are saying, this, but I'm finding all this information here, and then they'll end up doing their own thing for their health. And many times these are the vegans, these are the people who change diet, and they have a sensitive stomach for sure, sensitive dietary system, to the point where many health elements is completed with their diet which they consume. That's something.
It's a fifth house. It occupies natural fifth house. That's why.
Yeah, natural fifth house, and also when I talk Paipadidi, that will be clear. Like Venus is debilitated in sixth house, natural sixth house of Virgo. So these natives, Phalgunis, they'll always have some kind of stomach kind of issues. So many times they have to be really careful about their diet. That's something I've seen. And I've also seen, interestingly, that it's like they have to take care of their own health. Sometimes their health is little hands, many times. That is one thing. And the blindness is also very interesting, because they can be blind in love. They can be literally be blind. They can be literally, again, they can be blind with their beliefs. They can be blind with their relationships. They can be blind with sexuality, when that can also happen. But another thing about blind with relationship is that many times I've seen that they kind of fall into the codependent relationships, like, unhealthy relationships in their life. It also happened. I've seen that happen, because that's the energy they are more familiar with. Like, yeah, Bhaga is also the best friend, partner. So like you say that the bride is like what Shiva getting married on Purva Phalguni day, beginning his procession on Purva Phalguni day. That's kind of showing that the bride is the best bride you can have is Purva Phalguni, and then the best marriage you can have is Uttara Phalguni. So like that kind of theme is also there. So it's like these natives are so, it's like it makes for them to be in a relationship. That's the only energy that they get off. So there can be this kind of codependent relationship that can happen. Of course, like, with relationship, you can create children and stuff like that. So on the worst side of it is like codependent relationship. So if they increase their awareness, then they can definitely, get the best aspects of a relationship. And that's another thing, because I've literally seen this play out, Dr. Pai. Like these natives will want the biggest share of the contracts. They'll want the biggest share of the contracts. If they are in a partnership, they'll want the biggest share of the contracts. Or they'll get the smaller share if there are malefics. And then over time, they'll realize, say Saturn is placed there. Over time, they'll realize that, okay, I'm not getting the biggest share into my work. And eventually the planets will kind of force them to get the biggest share. Like they'll be like, okay, I need to get the biggest share. Something like that can happen. And Bhaga is obviously the biggest share of obtaining the bigger share. And yeah, they are very fortunate. They get inheritance or stuff like that is there. And let me see. Yeah, one thing about rat was that interesting point I mentioned in this Purva Phalguni video, which I made with you, Dr. Pai, how like the rats are, I think I'll begin to share my screen with the Pai Padhati stuff. But the thing with rats is that what is really interesting about rats is that, let's see. Okay, just give me a moment. You see my screen, but yeah, but see the rat, the part about rat which I want to answer. Dr. Pai also mentioned that rats are actually bringers of what do you say, generational diseases. So they kind of take on generational karma. So like the plague, many of the rats were actually carriers of the plague disease, you know. So like rats traveling on ships was how like the plague disease, you know, spread out to Europe, and then so many times there is this idea of general karma, like one entire generation is facing the consequence of the previous generation. That is another theme that can be seen. And interestingly, in Kerala, Purva Phalguni Nakshatra is called as Puram, and the name name of a festival in so a temple festival is called as a Puram in native Malayalam language. So it's like you know, there is this festive nature about these natives. So it's like they are always social. It's about you know, having good. You know, these will be the ones always like having a great time of relaxing. Let's take a break. You know, this will be the natives who are all about taking breaks and you know, chilled out, relaxed, that kind of thing. So yeah, but now let me get into Pai Padhati, which is very interesting because when we look into all the things we discuss, then we can see how many things will play out. So Purva Phalguni is the nakshatra. Yeah, this is, I'm just dividing the north part just to clarify. So Purva Phalguni nakshatra is falling in Leo constellation. Actually having the solar cycle of 4, and Rashipada numbers can change from 5 to 8 as per Pai Padhati. So solar cycle of 4 is showing that there will be very family things. That can be a broad theme. They can be family oriented or 4th house themes, so they might get property, they might inherit property. Those kind of things can happen. And many of times these natives will have a strong political opinion about their homeland. You know, they'll be like, you know, I have strong politics. This is the politics. You know, they'll have of course, it's falling in a natural Rashi. So you could say that they'll be strongly involved with politics. They might have kind of political theme. And that's one more thing. They have this strong leadership abilities. So we know that Nakshatra Lord is Venus. We know that Venus has its Multrikon in Libra Rashi. We know it's exalted in Pisces Rashi. And we know it's debilitated in second house in Virgo Rashi, but second house from Purva Phalguni. So like you can count the houses from Purva Phalguni or Leo Rashis, and now you suddenly see Purva Phalguni in a different picture. One of the first things I want to point out, and of course, Venus is also the Lord of 3rd Lord and 10th Lord from Purva Phalguni. So that's another thing. One of the first thing I want to point out is that Aditya mentioned he had an important call during the session. So if you look at 3rd house, it's like Venus is having its Multrikon in 3rd house. And you can see that Sun is actually debilitated there. So you could see that kind of Sun is an important thing, you know. So like that's an important. They might end up making important calls in their life. That's one thing that can happen. That's simply by looking at this map, you can make a lot of things. Why do the rats eat a lot? You could see that Venus is debilitated in 2nd house. So probably like, you know, it will affect the beauty of their face if they don't eat because Venus is connected to 2nd house. And then you have the Multrikon in 3rd house. So these natives will, you know, try to form relation friends. You could say that 3rd house Venus there. And then Venus is having its Multrikon. Sometimes for them talking with friends, like, you know, partnering up with friends. Again, 3rd house is falling in the natural 7th house of the zodiac. So again, why is Purva Phalguni the best friend? You know, why is Purva Phalguni Nakshatra the best friend, the best partner you could have, the best bride you could have? Why are they sexual? Venus is exalted in 8th house from Purva Phalguni Nakshatra ascendant. You can clearly see that. So they are clearly sexual. They want to reproduce, and they have extremely high creative energy. They're full of ideas, and they just keep on generating. And then, and 10th, so many times these native, after some point in life, they end up doing their own thing, their own business, something like that, their own thing. That can happen. And many times they don't like to work for a boss. So like they would want to be their own boss as well. And even that can also happen. Other thing is that because Venus is the 10th lord of career, so Venus will have this kind of influence as well. And then one theme for Purva Phalguni natives is that they need to, there will be a dynamic balance that is happening between the second house, the third house, and the 8th house. So like say these natives will be inclined towards, say, becoming sexual because Venus is exalted in 8th house. They may be great occultists, because Venus is exalted. Venus is the last planet to be exalted, in the last Rashi of the zodiac. So it's like huge. So they are capable of bringing huge amounts of knowledge, for sure. And in a creative, it will be completely creative. And then that they'll be naturally inclined towards that. But then because Venus is debilitated in second house, these themes are like food, money, things of that nature can happen. Like, money through partnerships, money through relationships. Like they go through, who's the richest man I can marry? Who's the richest woman I can marry? Things like that. Like money of the family, for instance, things like that. So these natives will definitely get some kind of money family. You can see that clearly. But for that, they'll have to ensure that they talk a lot. They have to talk because Venus is having its Multrikon in third house. And then the thing is that if they say they have no money, they have Venus debilitation effect in the second house, then all they need to do to activate the shift of balance from all this excess energy of Venus exalted in Pisces to shift that to Virgo Rashi, where there is a void of Venusian. They need to activate the Multrikon here of Venus, which is the third house. So more friends, more communication, more short trips, even things like that. And then they'll suddenly find that, if all the family took with their, the family and stuff, especially attending marriages, stuff like that, those kind of things will eventually play out. And what was also interesting was that, Dr. Pai, you mentioned that Sun is debilitated in third house and also exalted in 10th house. So you see those kind of things play out here clearly. One way is that these argue a lot about their self-respect. They'll be like, this guy didn't respect me. They might have they might always talk this guy not respecting me. My ego got hurt. That's something they might always talk about. That'd be the Venus Multrikon thing. That's just something they need to be aware of. And they'll do that in a sweet fashion, like in a Venusian fashion. That can also happen. And then another thing is that if you look at Venus being the 10th lord, and then that's where Moon is exalted. So it's like they are capable of putting their emotions into their career. So they need to literally feel, okay, this is my career. I need to be doing that. That kind of emotional thing. And that's also connected with Leo in general, because in any planets in Leo, you have to follow your heart. Sun is the only planet that gives off light. Even Moon is just reflecting light. So the first inspiration you get, that is what you should be following. For many of the Purva Phalguni natives, I've seen their intuition are so powerful that the first comes into their mind will always work out. And the second thought, they say, oh, it might not work out. Let me do the other thing. Then sometimes end up going back to the first thought as well. So that can happen again over and over, because Sun is the planet that gives off light. So they should be throwing off their light out into the world. And that's one of the reasons why many times these natives have strong leadership abilities. They are just throwing off the light for others. They are lighting up for others, things like that. And many times these leaders are actually following their heart. That's what they are actually not. They're not like thinking it out, strategizing or anything like that. They're just following their heart. And that's a big theme for here with Purva Phalguni, that they are really honest with themselves. What Evji said, they should be honest with themselves. That's the first. Sun is yourself, Sun is the individual. You have to be honest with yourself, and then you have to be listening to your heart, and then you should take things from there. That's the biggest lesson these profiles should be learning. Then everything suddenly becomes clear, like relationships, partnerships, what kind of partner I'm entering, what kind of relationship I'm entering. Everything becomes clear. And yeah, that's one thing, Dr. Pai. And yeah, because the remedy for Purva Phalguni natives is simply to, get more sun in their lives. That's what I would say. Like go out in the sun, do sun gazing, wake up to the sunrise. Many times many times these are lazy geniuses. These people are actually geniuses. They are just lazy. They're just super lazy. Why? Because they can immediately finish off a task. Because that's the only reason why they are lazy. They know that, okay, if I begin, I can finish it in 5 minutes. They'll just drag it on for 2 hours thinking of that. So they just need to they just need to be okay with, they just need to understand that's how they function. And then say like, if these natives can be extremely master, and see, another point is that I discussed this in the video before, these natives will work in their bed, they'll definitely do work. Their bed will always be cluttered. So like if they are able to declutter their bed, then that's another great remedy, because C is exalted in Venus Multrikon Rashi. So again, if they are able to respect Saturn boundaries, like, bed, even in bed, if they have to say like, okay, this portion is for this thing, this portion is for other thing, even if they were to do that, that's itself is this thing, can help a lot. And yeah, many, what salty, fried food, all of that is like, clearly see those themes playing out here with food themes. Venus debilitated here, Saturn exalted in Venus Multrikon, fried food, things like that. I don't know how you could connect salt, but that is one thing. But see, these are some themes, and natural. One thing I've seen is that Purva Phalguni natives were connecting with the linga form, like Shivling. Connecting, that's a big, huge thing, because a Shivling is actually. Yeah, go ahead, Evji.
I was just going to say, you might be about to say it, so I don't want to interrupt you. But yeah, it's actually one of the symbols. None of us talked about it yet, so that's wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, because the Shivlinga is actually the union of the linga and the yoni, showing the union literally there. So like connecting with Shivling. It's like if you say you have malefics there, you do the Shivling puja or Shivling, you have to mentally connect. Even if you have to just see things in your mind and then connect it to the Shivling form, because Shivling is one of the actually showing huge principles and showing the simplicity of nature. It's just simplicity. It's like so simple, and we tend to. And Sun is the simplest planet. Sun is the king. King gives the order and it's done. So like it's kind of like that, and that Shivling is actually pointing you towards the simplicity, that pure form of that purity. That's why these natives can achieve huge spiritual wisdom. The amount of spiritual wisdom they can bring down to this plane, and in a creative fashion, very huge. And yeah, usually one thing I'm thinking, yes, let me not forget this point. You also mentioned that Jupiter, both nakshatra is here in Purva Phalguni. So that was one interesting. So if you make Purva Phalguni nakshatra as you have Jupiter falling in 5th house from Purva Phalguni nakshatra. This debilitated again in 6th. It is exalted in 12th house. Again, you can see even just by Jupiterian energy being strong there, you can see that children, love to create. How they have
progeny as well with Mul Nakshatra.
Exactly.
And that's that to me is Guru or Jupiter being the one that guides you back to the origin of your own existence. That's really what Mul Nakshatra is all about, is returning to the origin. And so exaltation in the 12th house also makes sense.
Yeah, it's exactly. Right. That's where the spiritual thing, I think, comes. Brahaspati, Vachaspati, in the 12th house of, Vairagya and Tyag. Tyag is, letting go of all your desires and then going deep into spirituality. Beautiful points.
Yeah, because why do these natives, when they sleep, why do they get good ideas? Because when they sleep, the 12th house is being activated. So then that's what exalted. literally. So they come up with new ideas, So that's a very interesting point when you were looking at the planets there. And again, you can see Jupiter in 5th house, Jupiter Moltrikon in 5th house from Purva Phalguni. You can see why these natives of the classics, we were talking about classics, why these natives love the classics. They love to read the old story. They can be great storytellers. And 6th house again, debilitation of Jupiter. You can see why they are so, they might be strong, have strong beliefs about the diet and stuff like that, routines, things like that. And then, but yeah, that was a very beautiful point about that. Just clicked that, okay, you can look at Jupiter literally there and look at all the Rashis connected with Jupiter, and then things will change. But so now if you were to the same concept, and if you were to look at Moon, then you could see that Moon is exalted in 10th house and Moon is debilitated in 4th house. Because if you are saying that Moon is another planet that repeats in the Dasha rulership, so you can see the emotional connection with family, the family involvement with so many of the time these natives will have a famous last name, or they may have a last name that carry weight and things like that. And then you also have you could say that the Moon is debilitated in 4th house, so there'll be this natural sense of, okay, I need more land, I need to get the biggest share, probably something along those lines.
Santhip, may I just at this part with the 4th house, I just realized, we haven't really addressed the reclusive nature of this nakshatra. Everyone says it's a party nakshatra and this and that. I've met so many reclusive Purva Phalguni people. And I'm just realizing that 4th house being the abode of private space and mental peace. And Scorpio is such a, Vrishik is such a private sign in many ways. I mean, dealing with national security, dealing with sensitive information, research, inward, turning inward, and being intense about turning inward as well, being severe about the inward process. I'm just realizing, looking at this the way you've laid it out, that's a very prominent part of these people. Even some of the ones that seem like they're so outgoing and they're the life of the party, they need so much alone time. I've known these people, they'll go out, they need to be social on the weekend, but you can't get them on the phone in the weekdays, or you can't reach them. They just want and they wander too. The 4th house.
Oh, they may be quite alone. That's why they want to, they want to balance that while going out.
They need that. It's like a severe, it's like one or the other. And there's this, a little bit of a moody nature that can happen if they don't get that time. They don't get that time to withdraw inside. And that's very important for them. Whatever gives them peace of mind. I've seen this over the years working with them. Whatever gives them peace of mind, they need to have time in their private life to enjoy that. Or they don't feel very relaxed, whether it's just walking in the park, or whether it's just reading a book, or whether it's sitting along and binge watching a show and eating food, some silly pastime. It doesn't matter. I have seen this many times. So this is beautiful. Thank you. I just wanted to mention that, because that is a contrary nature that people might not pick out about this nakshatra. And when it comes to the art of giving readings, here's where book knowledge will help us about that much. Okay, so the art of giving readings in this modern world, you have to become very observant. You have to literally almost take on the nature of the owl. You had to become all eyes, see in the dark, stealthily observe what's around you, because we are living in such a different society than the ancient society. Our value systems even flipped, and the way we view things is so different. So one thing I've noticed about Purva Phalguni in the beginning, when I was first learning years back, if I was to say to someone they're social, some of them would actually, because they have a blunt side, they can be gentle, but they have a blunt side. So some of them would go, no, I hate going out. They would correct me really fast. They'd say, no, I don't like this. And I'm not lazy. And I don't even want a relationship. And so, so we have to really know how to read this. And I think if that fourth house is amplified, so let's say fourth pot of Purva, which falls in Scorpio.
Right.
That is vastly different than the third pada, which falls in Libra. And you can even make the same mistake by thinking the Libra pada is going to be social. That is not always true. Libra was a harsh sign, and most of the classical texts, Libra is a harsh sign, and so is Leo. As a matter of fact, speaking of the Harmahira, he has more negative things to say about Venus in Leo than Venus in Virgo. He actually says many good things about Venus in Virgo, or Venus in Gemini, the signs of Mercury. So he tends to present Mercury as being the most sensual planet, more than the other one. He does talk about Venus and Moon being sensual, but Mercury becomes quite earthy and talented and of the earth plane. So when Venus goes into Virgo, he has some pleasant things to say about it because he relates that sign so much to femininity and things of a feminine nature. But when it goes into Leo, he says some really harsh things about it. So I thought, and he was actively giving, he was actively observing omens, and a while ago when I was doing workshops, I used to notice that sometimes the early degree of Leo for Venus would restrict relationships for a long time. Magha, the early degrees, Magha Nakshatra, would be sometimes some more severe or amplify the Acharya side of Shukra, let's say. Magha would amplify Shukra as a knowledge holder more than seeking partnership or the like. So I noticed these little things when it comes to the art of getting readings. This is an important thing with Purva Phalguni. You'll meet many recluses with this sign. So I just wanted to add that. Sorry for taking
you can actually see that clearly. Venus is exalted in Pisces as well, which is the natural 12th house. And then you add the moon being debilitated in 4th house, so it's like they need their own alone time in their home. You clearly see that play out. That's
why the spirituality, moksha, Venus exalted in 12th house, correct?
Exactly. It's the highest expression of Purva Phalguni, getting moksha. I mean, what other higher can you get, go more than that? But yeah, this was the interesting thing. These natives, I've seen a lot of, when Rahu was transiting through Purva Phalguni earlier last year, and then, you could see like a lot of troubles with contracts and unions. So like what is happening in a contract? One party is, you being in union with the other party. So there's like, again, you have to write you have to literally sign the contract. So there is that union, the third house energy that is activated even in the contract as well. And what is also interesting is that these natives will be able to bring union completely polar opposites. Like one example of Richard Nixon, I think, he brought in the polar opposites of USA and USSR into a trade agreement. So again, that is one thing. So there was also another mathematician whom I quoted in Dr. Pai's channel. He was able to bring the polar different fields, polar opposite fields to create this thing, to an entirely new system, And so these natives are very creative, and and one last thing I have to say is that Purva Phalguni is that even though these natives will be extremely lucky, things will just work out for them for a long time. But it's sort of like they just need to understand that it's their past life karma that is coming back. So like they are the fruits of their past life. But that doesn't mean that they become lazy. That doesn't mean that they do the karma from in this life onwards, so that they can enjoy the fruits of it in the next life. So like there is this side of them which is like they become lazy because their things just work out for them. So they will just like, it will work out, say, why haven't you applied for a job? Yeah. Yeah, it will work out, So many times it will work out until they begin to run out of luck. So that's when it is really need to focus on creating structure, stable structures over time, which is like, perfectly harmonizing the Saturn Multrikon position here with the Sun's Multrikon influence in Leo Rashi. So like over time, that's the biggest, like Purva Phalguni is directly opposite to Satabisha, which is Saturn's Multrikon Rashi. And that's like the final, that's where they will finally end up going on, because they'll end up creating something. They'll have this creation, and then they'll end up having a stable structure out of that creation. That's literally what can happen. The kings, what do the kings do? Kings would create institutions, like service institutions, things like that. So many times I've seen such a big theme which these natives really need to be aware of. Like their luck, yeah, sure. I mean, your past life karma is why you're enjoying all the fruits. But ensure that you are also planting the seeds for a future generation. And that will be a strong drive for them. Like, thinking future generation, thinking about children is a strong drive for them. That will be immediately like out of nowhere, they'll get strength to like even face the toughest challenges, So again, like connection with the children, next generation, things like that. So even kings are all about like future generation. Like if you ask the king who's the most important people in a country, an actual king would say the children. No doubt about that. All kings would say the same answer. The children are the most important thing. So there is this promise to the future which Purva Phalguni need to fulfill. So that is one theme they need to realize when they are being lazy, when they are being self-indulgent, when they are eating too much, salty food and watching TV, stuff like that. But
I think one more thing about Purva Phalguni, which I believe is, Purva Phalguni natives like to talk a lot, and they would like to,
right.
That's why your second house, where Venus is debilitated.
Right.
If you talk a lot, you are not helping your Purva Phalguni. So being completely in silence sometimes helps, and that's why you see them become recluse. 2 days in a week they might be party animals, and then 5 days during the weekday they're just disappeared. You won't find them. They would just completely go into a place of recluse. They will become, because they are again trying to strengthen. And see, what are they trying to do? They're balancing the dynamic balances between second house and eighth house. Eighth house is your energies to the sexual passion is coming out, that they want to pacify that. But once they have done that, then they want to go back into the second house. They want to go into their own house. They want to speak less. They don't have too much people around them. That will actually unnerve them. Because remember, also in the same houses where Shukra is debilitated, Mercury is exalted, and where Shukra is exalted, Mercury is debilitated. So those energies also will have a
exactly. All right.
So Dr. Arjun.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to ask all of you a question. I am listening to the Santhip give absolutely brilliant analysis, and I'm just seeing it visually is always helpful. And I was curious because there is the Dwadashotari Dasha. And that Dasha is fascinating because Purva Phalguni becomes activated by the sun. And this is the only Dasha that you count backwards from Revati. Okay, it starts at Revati and you count backwards. And what are the qualifications to use the Dasha? You need to be born in the Navamsha of Venus. And that is the only one that moves backwards. So I'm hearing all this emphasis on Venus with Purva Phalguni, and it's very fascinating because this one, the rulership kind of trades places in the sense that it's Surya now that is activating Purva Phalguni, and it's backwards from Revati. And it's, I've often contemplated it. I have theories about it, but I was curious if one of you have anything that you might want to add to why that might be.
Yeah, Dr. Pai, go ahead.
I don't know. This is something which is it's interesting to note, EFG, when you talked about this dasha, where you're going in the counterclockwise direction, and then what you see is I'm seeing that in the eighth house, if you start with Revati, then this becomes the eighth house in the counterclockwise direction, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Venus goes backwards. Venus has the upside down, backwards And think about how many people are born with Lagna in Venus Navamsha. So we should be looking at the nakshatras in this way for them. For that dasha, it goes actually backwards.
And then it becomes very, very interesting. Yeah, Shukra, which is, which rotates, I think, if you take this way, yeah.
Yes.
This way. This
so
is
downward.
The downward. The axis.
And counterclockwise,
Counterclockwise,
right?
yeah. Or rather clockwise. No, clockwise. This is.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so yes.
This is how most of the planets do, but Shukra is clockwise, and that's if this is the axis, and these fingers actually rolling show you the direction in which Shukra is going clockwise.
Going from east to west, correct?
Yeah.
So what does Dwadasha, what does that word mean? That word Dwadash?
Well, if you think it's 12.
12.
It starts from Revati.
Okay. But what is interesting, Ivji, you said it is 12 and it said sun. And see, very importantly, sun gets exalted in the 12th house from Revati. If you're taking the counterclockwise in which it is moving, sun becomes exalted in the 12th house. And it is ruled by sun, isn't it? And sun comes in its own house in the 8th. Sun is debilitated in the 6th. All I'm taking with reference to Revati and going in the counterclockwise direction.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on, if you're looking at the South Indian chart, it will be counterclockwise. I think the other way around, isn't it? If it is not.
Well, either way, it's not so much that you're supposed to read the chart backwards, but it's that you just you're appointing the activating grahas backwards. So you're counting from, instead of going from like Kritika, Rohini, Mrigashira, you're actually going Revati, Uttra Bhadrapada, Purva Bhadrapada, Shara Vishaka. So they go in descending order in this dasha.
So the dasha that is activated is going in.
So it's a whole other conversation, but I just wondered if you guys had just.
This is beautiful. I think this is absolutely stunning. I'll tell you why, because EFG, for me, it makes more sense with this dasha, understanding Purva Phalguni, is because D12 is connected to all your ancestors.
Yes.
Exactly.
And you're moving in the reverse direction also means going to your past, going behind.
Like number 12 in astrology is typically previous life, astral death, genetics, where you're coming from, why you got the parents you got,
And that's
Purva
Phalguni. Purva is also past.
Previous.
Phalguni is the gunis, the karmas, the actions that you've done in the previous life is coming out. And soul is the karaka for the atma. So it beautifully fits in with, the analogy that we're talking about, Purva Phalguni, if you look at the system.
Yes, beautiful, Dr. Arjun Paiji. I just wanted to bring that forward. Hearing all of this about Venus, I had always contemplated it had to have something to do with the nature of Venus.
Yes.
Especially counting from Revati Nakshatra where Venus does so well.
Beautiful. So, I guess, we have had a brilliant discussion today. I don't know how to share this video with Kapiel because he had told me, try to keep it so that, again, people need to get all this information, but there's a lot of very good information which has come in this video. I'm very, very happy we've done this video. And one final thought I want to share with all the viewers is the best way to master the energies of the Phalgunis is by offering fruits, to the higher self. You can offer fruits to the God, you can offer fruits to your guru, because that way what you're doing is you are submitting the merit that you have. Okay, you're submitting at the feet of the guru or to the God. It's the 9th house that you are offering the fruits to. And that's why whenever we go to meet a guru in India, you always take fruits and flowers. You take fruits and you offer the fruits because we're basically offering our karmas at the feet of the guru or the feet of the God. So with that, I think let's thank you very much, Aditya ji. Thank you very much, Santhip ji, and thank you very much, Eve ji. It's been a great session, and I really love doing these sessions. Thank you very much. So, bye-bye.
Thank you all.